Hello everyone. So let's just continue our journey with thermal and statistical physics. So for the last three lectures, we saw a very brief introduction to thermal physics and we moved on to Andrew's experiment on carbon dioxide gas. So as a recap, I want you to remember what happened with Andrew's experiment. Why was it done? What was the aim of it? And what were the results? So this is our result. So you remember this graph, right? So I just want to tell you something about this particular region and elaborate on this particular point. So what happens here from AB to BC to CD, this curve, this blue curve, as we move from A to B at this particular point at B, there is a sudden great decrease in volume for a very small range of pressure. The range is not even clear here, but once you move from one pressure to the other, Andrews saw a very sharp decrease in volume, after which the gas became a liquid. So this region is referred to as a liquid vapor boiling region. Again, we at as even at a slightly higher temperature, we see the same behavior that at a point of pressure, the volume decreases rapidly, and then the gas is compressed into a liquid. And for the green curve, which is our critical point or critical temperature, where there is no range of pressures like this, or there is no sudden decrease in volume, rather a particular point at which the volume the gas is suddenly liquefied. And here we have denoted this isotherm, this temperature as Tc, this point as Pc, and also we can also call this particular volume that is occupied by the gas at critical temperature and critical pressure as critical volume. So these are the main results from Andrews experiment. Andrews experiment gave us some idea about critical constants. So which is the first critical constant? The critical temperature, this Tc. So this green curve, 31.1 degrees Celsius, is the critical temperature for carbon dioxide. What is the speciality of this critical temperature? What happens above this temperature? Above this temperature, no matter how much pressure you apply, the gas simply would not get liquefied. But below this temperature, there exists a point pressure or a range of values where by applying pressure you can actually liquefy a gas. So therefore, the maximum temperature at which a gas can be liquefied by increase of pressure alone. So this is referred to as critical temperature, and we cannot get liquid from vapor above this critical temperature. And the corresponding pressure is referred to as critical pressure, which is simply the pressure necessity to liquefy a gas at critical temperature. This is easy enough. And critical volume is the volume occupied by 1 mole of a gas at critical pressure and critical temperature. Again, simple. And in order, we will combine all these three into what is referred to as a critical point, which is that unique spot on the isotherm at the critical temperature. So on this graph, this is the critical temperature and this is that unique point where the sharp boundary between a gas and a liquid disappears. At this point, the gas would condense into liquid at a single pressure and volume. Now, I want you to think about our ideal gas equation and try to connect it with this graph. I hope you are not able to do that because it is not possible to do that, because this PV is equal to nRT does not give us any indication about a critical pressure, a critical temperature, or a critical volume or any critical point. So that means we need to modify this PV is equal to nRT. We will come to that soon enough. Uh, Before that, I want to I want you to see another graph. So from this equation, PV is equal to nRT, which means PV should be a constant. So let us draw graphs for carbon dioxide with, instead of PC on the y-axis, P on the y-axis, we can consider PV. Then if we draw, and then if it is an ideal gas, or if the gas behaves like an ideal gas, or if the gas obeys the ideal gas law, there should be one line like this where PV is a constant. So let us see this PV versus P isotherms. We have our x-axis with pressure and y-axis with P into V, product of pressure and volume. So this is our first graph, and this is the shape of our first graph. This is at a lower temperature. Now see this region. Here in this region, it is almost a straight line. It's almost a straight line, right? It is almost parallel to the y-axis. What does that mean? That means that pressure is almost a constant at this point. So if pressure is a constant, then the volume should be changing. That is okay. But at this point, the pressure is a constant. At the next temperature, we see a similar behavior. This is almost a constant. It's almost a constant value. Now this is at a slightly higher temperature, and here we have our critical temperature. And this is, again, there is a very sharp inflection. So let us compare this with our graph that we saw earlier. So this is our graph. Here see, this region, this straight line region corresponds to this region where the pressure is almost a constant. So I just wanted you to compare this graph with our earlier graph. And okay, this is the same curve that we drew. This is with these straight line portion. As we increase the temperature, the curve does not show this straight line behavior, but it is slowly getting parallel to the x-axis. You can see that. Here, this graph is almost, this isothermal is almost parallel to the x-axis, which is pressure. So which means, remember the graph that I showed earlier, PV is remaining a constant, right? So I will draw a straight line in order to understand how straight this line is. It's almost straight, at least at this point. Above this point, the graph remains straight but with a slight slope. Okay. So what does this graph mean? If our gas was an ideal gas, it should obey the ideal gas law, that is PV is equal to a constant. Our gas does obey that, but at a particular, only at a particular temperature. Above this, it's almost straight but with a slope, but below this, it does not show any straight line behavior. And at very low temperature, what happens? We see this critical behavior that we saw in that previous graph. So both these graphs at the same time explaining the behavior of real gas such as carbon dioxide. The one point that they insist on is that PV is equal to nRT, our ideal gas law, is no longer sufficient to explain the behavior of real gases. So we need to make some kind of an adjustment to the ideal gas law so that it can be applied to real gases also. So this is what we will see in our next lecture. Thank you.